So how many of you are familiar with the word? Okay, I see a few hands up. Now raise your hand if you can define vulnerability. Fewer hands, okay. Nice to see some of you in the front row able to define it. Now raise your hand if you think vulnerability can be your superpower. Anybody? Awesome. There are a few hands. Fantastic. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. In the next 15 minutes or so, I'd love to share with you some stories of how vulnerability is my superpower and how it can be yours as well. I love magnolia trees. I actually fell in love with them when I was at Davidson College in North Carolina in the US. You see these large, showy flowers come in various colors like pink, white, purple. They have a sweet fragrance. At the same time, they have deep roots that sometimes can extend up to 4 times the tree canopy. And what this enables them to do is in even harsh conditions anchor themselves very deeply and access water and nutrients from the soil. People sometimes today may see me as a magnolia tree, but what they don't see are the deep roots that truly enabled me to enrich and grow. When I look back on my career and connect the dots, there are a few themes that I pursued that enabled me to be who I am today. Brand and design, creativity, and leadership. And surprisingly, it's been my willingness to be vulnerable in each of these areas that has been a source of strength and ability to grow. What is vulnerable? The dictionary defines it as capable of being physically or emotionally wounded, open to attack. Think of acts of vulnerability as the possibility of exposing yourself to failure, to harm, to criticism. In fact, Brené Brown expresses this well when she tells us that vulnerability at the core is shame, is fear, it's our struggle for worthiness. But at the same time, it's also the birthplace of joy, of creativity, of love, and of belonging. I couldn't agree more. And let me tell you 3 stories of how this played out for me in my career. The first story is about brand and design. I started my career back in 2001 in San Francisco. This is our office. On the first day, I vividly remember being on the 3rd floor. It's induction. I'm feeling like a total imposter. What am I doing in the best brand and design agency in the world? I'm not a hotshot designer. I don't even have a design management degree. I'm just a freshly minted MBA. I studied math, physics, chemistry in high school, which was Cathedral. I then went on to undergrad. I did economics and applied math. And then in business school, I did marketing and international business. What was I doing here? I felt like a complete imposter. I was riddled with doubts. I didn't know how I was going to find my groove. I would find myself in design crits giving feedback and starting to think, oh, here I am, this Indian non-designer giving American designers feedback. I was riddled with so much doubt. I had to find a way to truly understand why I had been hired, to remind myself that I was there for a purpose. I honed in on figuring out that in order to fit in, I truly needed to find my own groove. In an agency that was all about design, what could I stand for? So I doubled down on the business of design. I decided to truly understand our clients' needs because they were coming to us to give them better solutions. And then I also decided to partner with designers to motivate them and to help them understand how to deliver better design solutions. And slowly, that allowed me to find my groove and my sense of belonging. So much so that many years later, almost 17 years later, I found myself to be the only non-designer at the Cannes Lion Design Jury in 2018, and I truly feel proud of that. Why? Because something that I thought was a weakness had in fact been my strength, and I had the vulnerability and the courage to embrace it. My second story is a story about vulnerability in creativity. Creativity is the ultimate vulnerable act. You're putting yourself out there and you don't know what the feedback is going to be. We deal with clients who are business people. They live in a world of numbers and metrics, but fresh ideas are vulnerable. If they're not presented properly, they can easily be thrown out and they don't stand a chance. These are the kinds of comments our clients would tell us. You're wasting our time. This is total rubbish. This is something that VG Siddhartha, the chairman and CEO of Cafe Coffee Day, who unfortunately is no more, told us when we first presented our designs for the Cafe Coffee Day rebrand. This design has no soul. You have only 24 hours to turn this around. We were showcasing our vision for T3 at Delhi International Airport, and this was Mr. GM Rao's comment. You really take this very much to heart. This is one of my favorites. Maza nahi aaya, Lulu. You're a big design agency, not a chota mota agency. Is this what you have to show us? A large bank for whom we were doing a retail redesign of over 4,000 branches said, and this person took it very personally. She said to us, you will be the only black mark in our KPIs because you've messed this project up. And another funny one, which some of you here may identify with, it looks like this work was done by people sitting in Malabar Hill, not people who really understand real India. It hurts. I shut down to negative feedback. I just couldn't take it. My body could feel it. My tears would swell up in my eyes. I had this visceral reaction. I didn't want to hear the feedback. I wanted to please our clients, and every time the client presentation went bad, I had a sleepless night. It was taking a heavy emotional toll on my body. What was I going to do? I needed to figure a way out of this situation. So I introspected, I read books, I spoke to experienced professionals. And what I learned is I needed to master selling creativity, and I also needed to find a way to distance myself and my sense of identity and self-worth from the work. I learned some really useful things actually, which is in selling creativity, the number one rule is know your audience, tailor your presentation, anticipate your questions. Super important. Use storytelling. How can you bring visuals and metaphors into the whole presentation to persuade and excite the audience? Show, don't just tell. Those of you who've done design thinking may be familiar with prototypes. Prototypes are used to help the audience visualize. Here's an interesting one, which you may not have thought of. Build a coalition for your ideas. When you have champions along with you who can support and advocate for your idea, it becomes that much stronger, and the chances of success are greater. And most importantly, be open to feedback. I think this is a really hard one because we're all necessarily defensive. You know, our defenses go up the minute somebody says something bad about an idea. This is hard to internalize, but Being open to feedback is a skill in itself, which has really served me well. Out of all of this, I would say the most important point of feedback is that I am not my work. Once that penny dropped, it became easier and easier and easier. My final story is about vulnerability in leadership. One of the greatest responsibilities I've had as the managing director of Landor when I set it up in India, and then after the integration of Landor and Fitch, has been to define the culture. Culture is our bedrock. Culture is what attracts the best talent, nurtures their creativity, and enables them to do extraordinary work. So I have a huge emphasis on building the right culture. And the kind of culture I envision is one of people centricity, passion for creativity, openness to teamwork, collaboration, and truly taking risks to produce work that goes above and beyond. I have a very interesting story. When we set up, we decided that one way to tell stories and build culture is to be very open about mistakes and failures. And there's one infamous one that I'd like to share with you. So, about 10 years ago, our client director, design director, and I were flying to Delhi for a big pitch. It was our first FMCG pitch. It was high stakes. We had to win it. It was a 9 o'clock flight to Delhi on a winter day. We arrived by about 6 or 7 in the morning. Sorry, the flight was at 7. We arrived by 5:30. And due to fog in Delhi, the flight was delayed. It was delayed by more than 3 hours. We were really nervous. Oh my God, we're going to miss this. There goes our opportunity. Luckily for us, after a couple of hours, the flight started boarding, and we were pretty sure of making the flight. And then the most bizarre thing happened. We rushed on the bus to the flight, and on the tarmac, when I was boarding the boarding stairs, I was deplaned. It was Indigo, and they didn't let me get on the flight because I had lost my physical boarding pass. And I was absolutely incredulous about this. I started fighting with the Indigo staff there, saying, this can't be possible. My colleagues were in the window looking at me. They were so absolutely scared because they'd never done a pitch in their life before. And here, the flight was taking off, and they were leaving me behind. So I asked the Indigo staff person, oh, come on, I can't be the first idiot in the world who's done this. There must be some precedent for this. And she said to me in a very calm voice, yes, ma'am, you are the first idiot. But my stupidity turned out to be a blessing in disguise for my client director. Because guess what? That was just the opening she needed to rise and shine. She went on, she won the pitch, won the client, and in the last 10 years, she's become one of the superstars on our team. We tell the story often, and there's a lot of laughter, but there's also astonishment that the leader can be so open about her mistakes and so self-deprecating. I think it's hugely important because when a leader is open, it builds an atmosphere of psychological safety. That psychological safety is important for people to engage, and that engagement results in retention as well as loyalty and satisfaction. I'm so proud to say that last year in 2023, Landor and Fitch was awarded Great Place to Work, and we had 95% approval from our employees. So there you go, 3 stories of vulnerability across brand and design, creativity, and leadership. The question I want to ask all of you is, after hearing these stories, can vulnerability be your superpower? Absolutely, it can be. Speak up for yourself. Don't be afraid to follow your heart. Participate in a talent competition, even if your sister is telling you not to. Speak up for yourself. Be kind when everybody else in the room is being mean. Don't be afraid to own up for your mistakes. And most importantly, believe in your inherent value and your self-worth. Vulnerability is indeed a difficult journey, but it's the only authentic way to live. I truly believe that. And if you're vulnerable, you strengthen your relationships, you build resilience, you can truly live a vivid and magnificent life. Brené Brown says, vulnerability is not weakness. That's a profoundly dangerous myth. It's actually the birthplace of innovation, of creativity, and of change. So, as you sow the seeds of your magnolia tree and wait for it to flourish and bloom, I hope you'll remember that vulnerability can be your superpower and most trusted ally on this journey. Thank you.